Welcome once again to the Sage. Thank you for always being with us. It's been an amazing 2 previous weeks, and I hope you did indeed follow us as we discussed with some amazing young people on set about the strategic importance of education in our country. Please, if you missed the 2 previous episodes, do go to our YouTube. This address is being shown on the screen and catch up. Today, we continue the discussion. For the 2 previous weeks, they have told us about themselves. They have talked about their journey through education in this country, their highs and their lows. And today we delve into what I think is perhaps the most important part of this discussion. So this is the education. This is what they've been through. But we all agreed that we all, for a good, strong country, need to have quality education available and accessible to as many young people as possible in this country. They, as young people who wear the shoe and understand ins and outs of it more than perhaps any other group, are going to tell us what they think we should be doing to improve our educational system and make sure it is what it should be. So again on set, we have Faith, we have Jonathan, and we have Eric. And we thank them for continuing to be with us. And this time I start with Jonathan and say to you, you shared a wonderful story last week. Somebody who has a different physical experience, your journey through life and through education in particular. In your opinion, what should we be doing for that ideal situation we want when it comes to education in this country?
Okay, thank you very much, Ma. I took note of some things. I would want to start with where the angle Faith came from. So while I was in school, it was a challenge. Part of the things I now do with the creative arts, is to use poetry, stage play to fight against gender-based violence and all of the sexual harassment that goes on. So I also belong to some groups that champion such causes. So I really do think that a lot of checks can be put in place for with the lecturers, because it hasn't ended. It's
still ongoing.
Yes, it's still ongoing even until now. And I get to relate to some of the students, and they get to tell me certain things, and I ask them, should we take it up? They'll be like, no, let me just graduate though. I don't want this lecturer's problem. It's still happening. So a lot of checks need to be done. A lot of checks. You see students now they try to set up the lecturer, use video, just to be able to prove that. We don't need to prove that the lecturer is sexually harassing a student. It's something that can easily be seen. So why do students have to go the extra length to prove it? So a lot of checks need to be put in place to solve that issue. It's a menace in our university. And it's crawling into our secondary schools.
Wow.
Yes, it's crawling into our secondary schools.
That is child molestation.
Yes, it's crawling. I do not want to say, but one of the schools I did teach, and the students kept on coming to complain to me about the school coach, and this was a secondary school. So it's now becoming a menace in our secondary school too. And these kids are under age 14, 15. What are you looking for? So a lot of checks need to be put in place for that. So on the lighter note now, we spoke about the spelling and grammar issues. I think a lot needs to be done with. When I was going, they took time. That's why I love my primary school. They took time to correct every grammar. You write it line by line. Everything was so. I think that was where before I studied English, my brothers used to call me Mr. English, because I enjoyed that grammar. It was a subject called grammar itself, separate from English. So they took time to explain it to you, why it should be this way, why you cannot use have not when you should use has been. So they took a lot of time to do that, and I feel as teachers now skip it. They do a lot of, they just rush through it. They join English, they join phonetics, everything together and rush through the curriculum, and that's a lot of time should be taken into put into teaching grammar for itself. That's a suggestion. And then kids like expression. They want to be able to express themselves. They don't want you to always tell them what to do. Our teaching system is more of instruction.
Yeah,
No,
I agree with you.
don't. You will not see the best of the kids. While I was teaching in one of the schools far up in Cross River, I remember the students, they loved me very much, and the principal didn't want me to go when I had to travel back to Abuja. She just, look at, you want to leave all of them? So one thing stood out. While everybody is teaching English, I turned mine to debate topics. Oh yeah, come and represent your group. Come and represent your class. If it's literature, you don't just read Shakespeare and read Shakespeare. You act Shakespeare. So I remember the Romeo and Juliet. It's a very funny thing, and it's love. And you're acting Romeo and Juliet with children. And I was like, okay, I will also pass. And I don't just tell them to play it. I act the drama. So their teacher is now becoming one of them. They love it. That's one thing. I wish I could continue teaching, but I had to break into the creative art because it helps me to be able to do more from the outside. So
that's a very important point. So you're saying that diversifying your modes of education,
yes,
and bringing in the creative arts, yes, into it, acting, debating, and so on, brought the subjects to life and helped them learn a lot better. And they had fun when they did it. Yeah.
So I remember they'll give, all the compositions you do give, write a composition about your best friend and all of that. So I told them, write your composition because you're going to submit it and your teachers will see it, those above me. But we'll also write a poem for me that you're going to present in the class to your students. That one is for you. I'm not going to score you. So you're going to write a poem about your best friend and you'll come and read it to the class. There were people who wrote very short compositions, but their poems were like 2 pages. They were more particular about being able to speak about their best friend. If the best friend is in the class, if the best friend has traveled, someone wrote about their best friend that had died. And it was very deep. I was like, this is just 2 students. So you will never see that side of them if you do not let them do them. So I compared it to her composition. I'm like, oh, okay. What she wrote in her composition was just on the surface. What she wrote in the poem was really deep. I kept the poem. I had to keep a copy of it for myself. So coming down to where I came from, the place of inclusion and everything, we need to have a lot of kind teachers. I would always say, we are not the ones that offended you. Don't bring your family problems to school, because we need to have a lot of kind teachers. Not just for persons who are differently able, but in general. If you're a primary school teacher, you talk down at your students. You are always thundering over them. You'll kill their esteem. They'll have low self-esteem. They go back home and they are not. And if you are not a parent and now you're not careful to know how your child is faring, you see a child who grows into himself. It was going to happen to me, because by the time I now got to secondary school, I'm expressive. You tell me it has been stubborn, you tell me it has been noisy. No. I always told them I would talk for a living, and that's what I'm doing. So it was finding a way to balance it and not say those things to me that really did hurt me. So if I had not gotten a very good background in primary school, I probably won't be this Jonathan now. I would have shied away, believed that, oh, there's something wrong with me and I have to wait for the society to do everything. So yes, so it was, we need kind teachers. We need a lot of kind teachers. I'm not married yet, but when I get married and put my child in school, the least complaint that a teacher called my child stupid, I might not go and challenge. I'll go to the authorities. I did not give birth to a stupid child, though. Please be kind with your words.
Can I add to that? Because I think that's very. You said we need kind teachers, but I want to say that it's not just about their being kind. As a requirement, they have to do right. When my daughter I worked internationally for a long time, moved to join me. I went to school in the UK. One of the things that struck me in her school, in her university, after she came, she said, it is part of this educational system, the British university system, after every semester, one of the final things the students do is they're given an instrument to rate their teachers. It is compulsory. You rate your teachers, and it's an anonymous instrument in which you describe them in detail. A teacher that is poorly rated soon begins to lose his or her job. I think it has to be as compulsory as that. Wait, kindness is something you decide to be. As a requirement for continuing to be a teacher, you must pass the student assessment as well. And I think it will deal with the issue of the sexual abuse as well. Because if the students are rating you and talking about you, each teacher, each course, and your behavior, you will behave. And of course, it's a protected instrument because the students are allowed anonymity and candidly rate their teachers. So, I mean, I will come back to you, but I think some of these things are urgent needs and urgent recommendations that need to be made to our educational systems. Yeah. Let me move to Kay. We'll come back.
To add to what he said, as regards teachers being kind, it's not just about being kind, like Mommy said. Sometimes these teachers don't know how to go about things. So there should be a place of training and retraining. I can be very sure that our public secondary school or primary school teachers don't go for trainings. I can say that. I've not heard where government now paid for trainings for teachers on how to. We in the private sector, we do our trainings with our teachers. How to even give a comment. We had PTC on Tuesday.
What is PTC?
Parent Teachers Conference. We do usually have that when kids are about to go on break, so that the parent knows what they should do with the child during break. They know what the child is lacking, the weakness, the strong points of the child. So I trained my teachers. You don't use some certain words. In the private arm, you will know that scholastic comment is something you should have handy. But I bet you, in these public schools, they don't know what you're talking about. So government itself, the government should train teachers to be able to know that this person should, even if there's a challenge with this person, it could even be as simple as mouth odor. We see that in the school. Kids come into school with their mouth not properly brushed, their tongue and teeth not properly brushed. There's a way you relate that kind of a thing to the parents. You don't even have business with the child to discuss. You discuss with the parent. Hello, ma, please. I think Folashade's mouth needs to be looked into. While we're talking today, she's close to me. There's a way I perceived something that is not nice. I think it might be an oversight. Can you look into it? I tell you, that's what will happen. In fact, in the private sector, you don't have the right to tell the parents. You have to relate it to the admin that will relate it to there's an hierarchy. But if you look at the public sector, they will just tell the child, I remember growing up in my secondary school, the secondary school I don't like the most. That secondary school, when the Yoruba teacher comes into the class, she will just stand in front of the class and be like, Talele, she'll just speak the Yoruba and say, who is this Igbo girl? Even when I'm not Igbo. I never passed Yoruba. I failed it woefully. Because her coming into the class, she's coming to attack me. Is it my fault that I'm fair? Or is it my fault that I don't understand Yoruba? And she's not making it easy for me. So I failed. In fact, it got to a level, I told my mom, when she's coming into the class, I'm walking out of her class. It got that bad. So she's always punishing me. For what? Because I don't know how to speak Yoruba. Because I don't know how to relate with you. She speaks Yoruba from the beginning of the class to the end of the class. And she expects you to relate with her in Yoruba. So when she's entering the class, she's already looking for me to attack. So they are not trained. That kind of a person, I will not learn Yoruba that way. So there should be a training. The government, Nigeria government, should look at training teachers. It's not just the salary. Teachers, especially in their own end, should be trained. Then I'll now look at the My school is in a suburban area, and I've done my checks. A lot of teachers, a lot of schools in the suburban area, they need to be looked into also. Some of them just have the facility and they are doing nonsense, I'm sorry to say. From the owner of the school to the cleaner, the last person in the school, they don't know what they're just running a school for money making. So we, in our own end, as a school in a suburban area, what we try to do, we try as much as possible to make our learning interesting. How do we do that? Any topic we learn, there must be hands-on activity of that topic. That is why you can wake a child up. What did you learn about water? The child will tell you what she learned. She's not going to be telling you definition of water. She will tell you what she knows, what she has understood due to the hands-on activity. It could be bring everybody come to school tomorrow with handkerchief. We are going to wash our handkerchief in school tomorrow. You have just told them uses of water. So they should look for a more modern way to go about their teaching. They should look for a more innovative way.
Innovation, yes. Imaginative.
Yes, they should go far. And the schools in town or the schools in the developed areas, let me use Abuja that we are, they don't have that challenge. But you see the children in the suburban and the urban areas. Now look at public school, for example. They will just write the notes on the board. If I go to that secondary school, I will be their best teacher. I happen to serve in Enugu. In the school I served, I taught just CRK, ma. Till today, I still have my pupils or students that still dial my number. Auntie, I just want to check up on you. The teachers need to be passionate. But there's no way we can measure passionate teachers when you want to employ, especially in the public sector. There's no way you can measure that, but they can keep training and retraining them to become passionate teachers. They can even have a collaboration with private school owners to see that what they are doing in their own school that is making them do well, they can bring it to the public schools so that these children can also benefit. It's not like we're having two lives in this life. The public students, the private school children. When they stand, they are not at par. That shows that something is wrong in the public school, while the private schools are doing their bits. So another thing I think they should also look at is our curriculum. This curriculum we have been using since years. What I learned, my children are still learning it in the same way. So they need to also look at how the society is evolving.
Yeah, the
world
is
evolving,
becoming more technical, technological.
Yes,
yeah.
They should visit our curriculum and see that it is updated, it is changed, whatever they need to do. If they need to have meetings with people that are doing well, at least they should have a record of schools doing well at the moment in Abuja. I'm using Abuja because that's where we are. From there, let's start with the Federal Capital Territory. It will now move into the states. We don't even want to go into state schools. By the time they are able to look into the curriculum, to see that the curriculum, every children, like he said, they do better with hands-on, with creativity. But it is not in the curriculum. Even in their topic, let me use CCA, Cultural and Creative Arts, for primary 1, year 1, grade 1. What you see there is meaning of arts, meaning of crafts. Then they will draw pictures, color it. That's the curriculum I'm talking about. They need to do more in the curriculum.
Thank you so much, my dear. I mean, yeah, every point made by both of you is profound. And all of it, each one there's urgent need, there's an urgency for it to be addressed. But let me turn to Eric, and he even challenge you even more. And so far, Faith and Jonathan have talked a great deal about the teaching, particularly within the formal sector, and what needs to be done, whether it's the quality of the teachers or their curriculum and the materials. But is that all? I throw it out there, preempting you. Please, you had your original thought. But let me also say that we all know that our educational system has a myriad of problems, teachers, curriculum, and so on and so on. But what about infrastructure and supportive environment? And so what about the students themselves? Are there problems there? And so on. Over to you.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank my colleagues on the set here. You've spoken so passionately, and I know a lot of viewers have personal experience of what you are talking about. And we will be glad to hear in the comment section as well their experiences in schools. You know, education is so important. It's so important that we cannot underestimate the effects of having bad education. In the world today, in the first 1,000 universities in the world, I think Nigeria has just one. Let us paint the picture of where we are right now. In the first 1,000 universities in the world, 1,000, we have just one on that calendar. Let me not mention the position.
Probably the bottom of the ladder.
Let me not mention the position. But the Sustainable Development Goal number 4 talks about basic education for all children before the year 2030, 7 years away. We're far, far behind that. Nigeria's budget for 2023 is about 21.8 trillion naira. Only 7% of that amount goes to education. The UN is saying that for Nigeria to meet sustainable goal number 4, we need to put 20% of that amount into education. Then I come to the government. Education is at the concurrent list. So we have government at the center, federal government, the state government, and even the local government area. How much do we see our government see education as an important tool for nation building?